with a super palate. Cigar moons invaders of the cigar world. Grumpy preacher, the conspiracy theory expert. Cigarillas podcast, come and join us. Vitola and proof expert on all things spirits. Tobacco gene sticks director of special operations. Cigar Loons podcast, we are the invaders of the cigar world. Cigar Kurt, the front porch cowboy. As a ginger grizzly bear with a super palate. Cigar Loons invaders of the cigar world. Preacher, the conspiracy theory expert. Cigar Loons podcast, come and join us.
All right.
Hello.
Welcome,
Hello.
everybody.
Howdy.
October 1st. Today, we have our special guest from Hermosa Cigars, Scott de la Pena.
Hello, everybody.
He's over there. That's him over there.
We're gonna pick his brain a little bit, see about his background and his passion, and talk about the cigars that he produces.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and start with Cigar Kurt and go around and everybody introduce themselves.
Hey, Scott, I appreciate you being here. I'm Cigar Kurt. I'm from the up in the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Georgia, so I'm not sure where you are. You're out in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
right?
Southern California, Los Angeles, right by the beach.
All right. So it's early out
Nice.
there for you.
Yeah. So I still got light.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Northern Georgia.
Cool,
So how are
welcome,
you?
Scott.
Oh, hello.
I'm Gaz, of course, from England.
sir.
So welcome, of course,
Sir.
to the podcast.
Very late for you.
Yeah, midnight. Midnight.
And then,
Matthew.
where?
Grumpy old Matthew. Which one's talking now?
I'll talk. Matthew Sanborn. I'm in northeastern Ohio, of all places.
Very cool.
Cleveland.
I won't hold that against you.
Thank you.
I do.
Mr. Grumpy Preacher.
That's me over here in the corner, Grumpy. Just yell or throw something at me if you need me. I just kind of hang out in the corner and give them all that cringe factor when it comes my turn. That's what I'm best at. They never know.
True,
You're
true
left field.
story.
Left
Say
field.
what?
Indeed.
Call you left field.
Yeah.
Here comes
Actually,
Grumpy.
I reside on the other side of the left field fence. Actually,
Ah.
yeah. I'm just outside the ballpark.
In the grandstand.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well,
Up where my daughter.
thank you very much for being here.
Oh, I'm in the Florida
Uh,
Panhandle since everybody's talking about location.
You are.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Florida Panhandle.
Right on.
He survived the hurricane.
I was going to
Yeah.
say, how many of you were affected?
Yeah.
Obviously not guys.
No, not him.
Yeah.
It took a right turn before it got to me. It was headed to me, but it took a right turn.
Oh, thank God.
And it
How
just
about
missed me up here.
Yeah. She
So,
missed you too.
yeah, I was lucky. I mean,
gotta-
just hour away. It's 2 hours away.
Yeah.
It's devastation, but we're lucky up here. I'm pretty
Wow.
higher elevation though too, so
I got
Very
a bunch of rain. That's about it.
tropical storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the
Yeah,
rain made its way up
Well, like
here,
I
that was
said,
it. Just a little bit.
very
Go
cold.
ahead, Jess. Sorry.
Very
oh, you're
cold.
good, brother.
So,
No, like I was saying, thank you for being here,
oh, thank you.
and you know, we appreciate everybody that's tuning in to watch from all over the U.S. and the U.K. Uh, I'm you see the daylight here, so I'm West Coast just like you,
Yep,
but I'm in Washington State,
that's where my daughter's at.
but not in Seattle. I'm not in that mess over there. I'm in Central Washington in a small town called Wenatchee.
Nice, nice. Yeah, my daughter's right in the belly of the beast, Seattle.
Yeah, that's a rough place.
Yeah,
It's a
yep.
rough place.
Ooh.
Well, sir, let's see here. You're a very hard person to get to find things about, and I'm gonna just say it because I'm sure you know it with the smile you got going on, and so I want to start off with is from the beginning. Is okay, we got your Cuban family background.
Mm-hmm.
We got we got Sony Pictures. We got you coming in and starting your cigar company, and you were smoking cigars. But how did you fall in love with
So
cigars?
Smokey
How
G
was the
Miss
very
Speed.
beginning?
What's up, Gary?
How you doing? How was the beginning? The beginning of your cigar journey. When did you fall in love with cigars? Before Hermosa, where did your passion start at?
So, probably like a lot of guys, sneaking tokes off of my uncles and cousins' cigars as a kid. So my great uncle, my tío Rogelio, was my dad and that whole side of the family escaped communist Cuba when Fidel Castro took over. So that was back in 1960. And my tío Rogelio was a manager at Cohiba, the factory. And well, I don't think it was Cohiba at the time. I don't remember if it was Partagas or anyway. He was a manager at one of the factories down there, and was very much into obviously everything Cuban tobacco. And at that time, it was the pretty much the only place that you did tobacco. There, there was regional tobacco in Nicaragua, but they had like one varietal. Uh, I don't know about the Dominican at that time if they were growing with any. I know they were in like Colombia and parts of South America, but not, no commercial activity. So Cuba was a hub. And when Fidel took over, they offered him all kinds of money and stature and to stay. And he was like, nope. And he left and moved to Miami. So that part of the family stayed in Miami. His brother, my tío Roberto, and my dad, who was living with him, uh, my tío Roberto was a producer, owned a film lab, and was a director, actor, the whole nine yards, and was making films in Cuba. So when he got to the United States, he decided he was going to move that part of the family to the West Coast, which was my dad and us. I wasn't born yet, but so we came to the West Coast, and that's how I ended up in the film industry. But tobacco was still, obviously in our family's blood. And so I always enjoyed it, loved it from a kid. I don't remember anything else. It just was like, there's just constantly a cigar, you know? So it was the ambient smell, if you will, throughout my childhood.
Nice.
So I can't
Mm.
like an exact time where, oh yeah, it just is like we drink milk,
It's just this. It's a part of
Yeah.
you.
It just, yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, that's pretty awesome, though. Because coming from Puerto Rico, I was born over there,
Yeah.
and I saw a lot of people smoking cigars all the time, and I mean, it's just part of the culture and the traditions, and
Right.
uh, I understand the thing about the ambient smell being tobacco.
Yeah.
You can't go to the corner store and
Pardon
not
me.
find a bunch of guys playing dominoes, smoking cigars. That was just
Exactly.
what happened, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
So I understand that, but I never grew up in it in the way you kind of did, and that's pretty awesome. Pretty great way to just
It was.
completely be indulged by the tobacco,
I can remember
Um,
being little and being in back east, and my tío Rogelio had a beautiful, I think it was a 1967 Cadillac Coupe de Ville, white leather interior, garage parked, but he would make cigars for personal blends for everybody that was involved in the culture down there, and
mhm.
so he would just make small batches. Had his specific growers, and at that time in the U.S. there was still a very thriving cigar business, and so all he did was personal blends for statesmen and politicians and what have you, but very exclusive
Hmm.
cigars. But I can remember, jumping in his car, would drive down the Calle Ocho and whatever, drop off bundles, and so it was. Yeah, you
Yeah,
would
yeah.
smell the what was it, Cuban cologne. I'm sure you know it, Jesse. The the bottle with the flowers on it, with the after you shower.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you always gotta splash some of that right after.
yeah, yeah. It's splashed with talcum powder and that stuff.
Yeah. Um, so before I pass it on to the next guy here, tell us something about these cigars that you very gracefully uh, have sent to us.
Oh no, I apologize, guys. These are just a small factory that I'm trying to give a chance, and they'll send me blends and stuff, and I'll send them what I want. And depending on
Hmm.
their capability, you know, their access to. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with how it works down in Esteli or when they're, you know, acquiring
Yeah.
tobacco, but you'll have a bunch of small uh, guys that process tobacco, right? So they'll buy bundles and bunches and packs if they've got enough money, and they'll cure their own tobacco and then sell it. So if you're a small manufacturer, you don't have access to the same tobacco over and over and over again. So if you're a large producer and you're trying to keep consistent, you can't do it with those smaller guys. Otherwise, you're reblending every
Yeah.
single time you're running a batch, Um, but I try to, you can do uh, knockoffs, you can do unbanded cigars that you just sell to the public for $5 a stick, and they're good for that.
Hmm.
They're good cigars. They're just not what I would put my name on. But these I did for the podcast purpose. But they're good
Right.
guys.
Right.
Yeah, if I
Well.
had the means, I would load them up with tobacco and here go, because they're good construction, good burn.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. You know, that's what I was gonna say. You know, right now, and just the beginning of the cigar is being very pleasant. You know,
Yep.
very smooth. You
Hmm.
know, you can taste. You know, the blend without the bitterness or sourness that sometimes you get with lesser quality tobacco.
Right.
So it's very, very pleasant. The ash is beautiful. It's white, nice and solid. Um, and the guys know I'm all about the ash. Um, and so to me, so far, even though you say this is not what you would put your name on, it's still a very, very pleasant, very beautiful cigar.
Well, thank
And that just speaks to the quality of cigar that you're, you know, reaching out to put out there for the consumer. And we appreciate that very, very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Yeah, as soon as I have, like, I've got with my regular factory, I've got cigars coming, and Grumpy Preacher, you'll appreciate this. One of the blends is called the Pastor's Blend. So
Ah,
Yeah,
it's a very nice blend.
there you go.
And then I have some other blends. One is Samara, which is a Maduro, but I blended out that barnyard taste, which took years, by the way, to get correct. And now, as because every now and then I'll check in on what everybody's doing on the market, and now I see
mhm.
guys basically doing the same thing, trying to blend out the barnyard. Some successfully, some not so much. But
Right.
when I get those, I'll send you
All right.
guys a couple of those.
Cool.
Then you'll see what I'm talking about.
Well, thank you. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Yep.
I'll look forward to those.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm
No,
going to go ahead and pass it on to Cigar Kurt and let him ask you his questions.
Yes, sir.
All right, again, Scotty. Yeah, I appreciate you being here. So this cigar the band that's on this cigar, I
Mhm.
understand this is just from the little I saw. It was a couple of years ago, a few years ago, but this is modeled after your girlfriend.
Former.
Okay, all right. So that's a silhouette of her. So the blend that was done in this cigar, that's not what we have here, if I understand correctly.
It's not
The
the original
original.
blend. Correct. Correct.
Okay, all right. Because I saw them on your website, and they were sold out. I just didn't know. So
Yeah,
is that what's coming back, or
that's what's coming back. I'll be making a trip down there. The original factory that I was working with, the original producer or uh, factory that I was working with, was Noel Rojas, and so he and I parted ways. Um, it was all at the same time that the FDA was coming down on cigars, and everything was
okay?
changing in the industry. And they started asking me what kind of tobacco I was using and what was in each of my blends and the sizes and this and that. And I don't know how much you guys know me, but I'm not a conformist. So
my
I
kind
just,
of guy.
Welcome,
yeah, I
welcome
told
to the club.
Yeah,
thank
welcome to the resistance.
oh, good. So I'm among like-minded guys. I told them to pound sand. I said, "You guys are the experts. You're the FDA. You tell me what's in my blend." And they asked, well, what kind of tobacco are you using? I said, the kind that grows out of the ground. And said, what sizes do you have? And I said, small, medium, and large.
All right.
So after that,
Love.
I pulled way back. They added another 5 cents tax on the cigars, and I decided to go non-banded, non-boxed, and basically creating private proprietary blends for house blends for cigar lounges. So I pulled way back and,
Right.
and was just focusing on that, and so I wasn't pursuing getting the original blend redone. But I have two blends: the Tierra Santa, which was a wildly popular blend, very, very, very reminiscent of the Bolivar, the Cuban Bolivar. A lot of cinnamon, a lot of bread, very creamy. All my cigars are very, very creamy. These are not creamy, which is why I would put
Right.
my name on them. I mean, they're somewhat creamy, but
Yeah.
not to my standards.
And that was going to kind of go into my next question. So
Sure.
I saw an excuse me. I saw an interview
Yeah.
some years ago, and you said that you want to make your cigar as close as possible to a Cuban cigar. So do you still
Correct.
aspire to that? And then, I guess, what is that taste profile for you? I've smoked one Cuban. Gaz there, he's got unlimited access, just like we can get New World cigars over here. So he can
Right.
smoke a bunch of them. So I guess I'm just curious what you envision that profile tasting like. And
How many Cuban cigars have you smoked?
one
One Cuban
about
cigar.
10 years
really?
ago. So
0.
I hadn't had any.
That's astonishing, really.
I
Yeah.
don't
Okay,
know if one
I'll address
Cuban
Gaz
or
in-
not.
Jesse, you? Same?
No,
Have you
I think my first one was, but I'm not sure if it even was or not.
Wow. Okay. All right. So basically, this conversation is with Gaz now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Goes the
Pretty
neighbor.
much.
There goes the neighborhood.
So
Yep.
And soak in the information there.
So as much as I absolutely adore Nicaraguan tobacco, and I do, and I think you can get very, very close to Cuban tobacco. I think the closest producers who've gotten it are Aganorsa in Nicaragua. You laugh.
Oh no!
No, he's
I was
laughing at the
I was
comment.
looking at the comment, brother. I was
I
looking
missed
at the
it.
comment. It was. You go right ahead.
I missed the comment.
It was a comment.
And he said, Gary said, going down the rabbit hole tonight, I see. So he's laughing.
So yeah,
Oh
there's
God!
just there's not much of a there's not much comparable to Cuban tobacco. It's just the way Cuba is situated, the trade winds, the way they come up over the hills and then down into the valleys of Pinar del Rio. They get the trade winds, the salt air that crystallizes on the tobacco. The tobacco is very fine, very soft, very smooth, very sweet. It has a very, the only way I can explain it is bread-like, like Cuban pan. So it's like a sweet bread. And maybe guys, having smoked New World and Cubans, although I'll say, because Cuba can't keep up with production, so they do use a lot of Nicaraguan tobacco in their production. So a lot of what you're getting now is mixed with Nicaraguan and Cuban, which is beautiful. I mean, they still make beautiful cigars, but it's not quite the same as a Cuban cigar. A Cuban cigar is just you can't match it. You really can't. But I try. What I strive for, that's the standard, the gold standard, and I try to keep everything within that. Aim high, miss high.
I guess I'll try to, before, I know eventually we'll get over to Gaz and get his opinion on it, but I'll try to soften the blow a little bit. Do you find that, because we've heard that the Cuban, the farming is just overrun because they're just trying to produce so much. They're not rotating the crops. It's just like they're like driving it into the ground, as a euphemism. Do you find that do you think over the years, the last 10, 15 years, that the quality has gone down?
Absolutely,
Do you,
100%.
yeah,
Not 10, 15 years. Tried 30, 40 years.
Okay.
right.
So
Yeah.
the people, there's very select groups that are getting actual Cuban cigars. The Middle East, China, and when I say China, I mean basically the Communist Party officials. The Middle East, the Saudi princes, all of them, they're getting actual Cuban cigars. And when I say actual Cuban cigars, I just mean all Cuban tobacco. There's no Dominican
The
tobacco.
best
No,
of what they can produce,
the
I
best
guess,
of what they
compared
produce.
to
Exactly.
what they're putting
Exactly.
out to everybody else.
And
All
if you
right.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
Kurt,
I
go.
was just saying I appreciate that, and I'll pass it on over to Matthew and see what he's got for you. But I'm glad you're here tonight, Scott. I appreciate it, and thank you for sending the cigars. Even
Thank
though they're samples, they're still pretty good. I got a lot of red pepper in mine, some oak, and it's a stout little cigar. It's not creamy, like you said.
Yeah, it's not creamy. No,
Yeah,
it isn't.
definitely not creamy.
Yeah, the minute I
Uh,
don't get creamy, I'm done. I set it down. I'm done.
oh my.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. I like a creamy cigar as well, but it's not a deal breaker for me because I've only had New World cigars. Um, I will say this has a grassy note that
Yeah,
I'm not sure I 100% love, but it's not bad. It's
you and me both.
it
And that is a great observation.
yeah, it tastes like
Well,
kind of like freshly cut
that is
grass.
to me.
Go ahead, Jesse.
See, and to me, I like that out of this cigar. It reminds me of smoking a candela.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right on. Yeah,
Sure.
for sure.
Well, I don't think I've ever smoked a candela, so yay! Check another box for me. Um,
Oh,
so I guess my question would be, since I know you don't really want to get into the details of what this cigar is.
Oh, I can get
Can
into
you
it.
talk about? Well, can you talk about the blend that this is?
So I'll tell you the three
At least the
prime.
wrapper.
Absolutely. The three primary regions that I select from are Condega, Jalapa, Esteli. Those are the three primaries.
Okay.
And then you've got all the independent processors. And so those guys are going to go get the tobacco from those regions, from the different little fincas that are growing them, the little farms. And then they're going to create their own little pilons and their own piles of tobacco and process them for a year, 2 years, you hope. But most of them is 6 months to a year. And if they didn't rotate it properly, if they didn't do the processing properly, you're going to get sour. You're going to get, sometimes mold. You're going to,
LFD,
yeah.
Lemon.
So it's important that you source your tobacco from the right processor.
Sure.
But I don't typically have that problem because I go straight to the farm and I know exactly who it is that's growing my tobacco, and they reserve my tobacco.
Sure.
Like I said, these guys are friends of mine. I love these guys. They're doing their best. They sent me. I bought some samples from them, and they sent them out, which is always going to be a challenge because if they don't have the right licensing in Nicaragua, you have to go through. You hope you can get it with somebody on a plane, and they happen to be coming to the United States. And anyway,
Understood.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess my usual follow-up question with anybody is I focus a lot of my thoughts and interest on pairings. Obviously, coffee.
Yep.
I like soda. This is a root beer, a craft root beer, and then I like whiskey.
Yep.
So what's your go-to pairing with your cigars?
Cuban coffee.
That's
Cuban
a great
coffee.
answer.
Yeah.
I have had Cuban coffee once.
Yep.
There's a little place downtown that has it.
Yeah. Espresso.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
it's like a little shot, but it'll
Yep.
keep you awake for days on end. And
Hmm.
Yeah, I
That
drink
little
the
paper medicine
Americanized
cup.
Cuban coffee.
what's that?
You know
That
which
little
one that
paper.
is, right?
That
The
little
American.
paper medicine cup, man.
Yes,
That's all it
sir.
takes.
You said you're in Florida, right, Grumpy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're there. They're
Yeah,
everywhere.
I've been to the dog track and highlight games and stuff like that. Yeah, I've been there.
So you go and you grab a little
Yeah.
espresso, and that's all cleanses your palate.
The-
It, you know,
The
but
world is a better place.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But whiskeys, I like a peaty single malt. Um, Absolutely clears the palate, allows you to enjoy the actual expression of the cigar, what the cigar manufacturer was trying to do. Um,
Sure.
you want to get as close to the original roll uh, when they originally rolled the cigar, not mass production, and then pair that with a peaty single malt
Yeah.
or a dark espresso. If nothing else, you go to Starbucks or Coffee Bean or one of those, and you can get a pretty good shot of espresso that'll allow you to enjoy what the manufacturer was trying to do with that cigar, what the
Right
blender
on.
was trying to do.
So
Yeah.
one of our viewers has
we
a
got
question here for you.
Yes,
He's
sir.
he's asking what your go-to cigar is. I assume he means not made by you. Um,
That would probably be the Bolivar.
Ah,
the Cuban.
Probably, yeah, absolutely.
the Cuban Bolivar.
Cuban Bolivar.
Mm.
That's one of my favorite blends. That and probably Partagas. And then every year, Cuba has like a festival,
Hmm.
and they do
Mhm.
festival cigars, and Partagas does an incredible. I mean, this one cigar is a Solomon, and this thing is probably has to be 7 by 60.
Okay.
And I've never been so high in my entire life because you're smoking it so fast. I was sitting there, my heart was racing, I'm sweating. You don't even taste the strength because it's so smooth, but it's like candy, literal candy. It was one of the most beautiful cigars, but that's a rare cigar. So my go-to, Bolivar.
Okay.
Bolivar.
Awesome. Well, I think I will pass it on over to Grumpy,
Yes,
and he
sir.
can make all of us pucker up a little bit while he comes up with a question.
Oh Jesus. Oh Jesus. Please help.
Hey, be quiet.
Please help.
Past your bedtime.
Santa Madre. How you doing?
Anyway,
Give me your best shot, Grumpy.
no, it's no. I was just gonna. Do you have any future aspirations for like? I mean, hitting like the big PCAs, the big events, stuff like that. I mean,
I,
what's your thoughts on doing those? Where you at with that?
yes, sir. Good question. So did all those years back, probably 2012 to 2015 was at all the IPC or yeah, IPC. What was it? It's not that anymore.
PCA.
Yeah,
PCA.
IPCA events in Vegas, wherever it was, and you get there. You know, you spend $20,000-$30,000 to show up there. You hope you sell out, and then you're trying to basically make next year's run and get as many orders as you can at that event. IPCPR, and and I just went away from that. It got old.
Right.
I saw it was just a terrible business model. It may have worked in 1950, 1960, 1970, 80, whatever. It doesn't work now. And then they further shifted me in that direction when the FDA came in to regulate all of these small makers. And, it was no coincidence that General and Altadis basically bought the entire industry and Obama facilitated it. And so at the same time, he was handing all the boutiques to those two big makers, including Drew Estate.
Right.
Uh, I had a couple of offers and I said no, thank you. And I saw a lot of guys take the offers. Some very respected guys in the boutique end of the cigar business took the offers, took the executive vice presidency of their own company, and then they were phased out over a year's time. And then eventually their blend was phased out, their blends.
Yeah.
Whatever didn't have shelf life. So I was right in what I figured was going to happen. I understood guys taking the money. I got it.
Yeah. But when
Go ahead, Grumpy.
but it depends on who's offering the money as to whether how big the hook is in it.
Exactly. I mean, I had this, I'm not cool with that. It was like I need to control
Right.
what it was that I did. And it was like, if I'm not going to be in the business, I'll not be in the business. But I'm not going to have anybody tell me what it is that I do or what tobacco I can use and what tobacco I can't. And so I was like, no, thank you. So I continued to do small batch and house blends and so on and so forth, which, scraping by, paying the bills. But I was able to still do what I like to do and create good cigars. Whereas everything I smoke out there now it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's not bad cigars, but
Right.
but they're all the same. It's a different band, a different box, but it's the same tobacco. You can taste all the same tobacco. Everybody's copying everybody. So what happens is everybody starts copying everybody and you lose the original intent. And
Exactly.
and everybody's palate just gravitates and just moves away from what was great about cigars. And it's like, look, ultimately it's a vehicle for nicotine, right? That's ultimately what it is a vehicle for nicotine, but it should be enjoyable. It should be, a cigar should make you ready for the next cigar. An expression I've always used is a cigar should be an invitation for the next, not where your palate is so worn out that you don't want another cigar. You're good. I'm done. And,
Yeah.
I don't need anything else. Your mouth should still be watering. You shouldn't be dried out. You shouldn't be exhausted. you'd be ready to set it down halfway through. It's like, no, you want to smoke it to the nub and then light up another one.
Yeah.
True.
I don't
Well,
know. Way off track there, Grumpy. I'm
nah,
sorry.
you're all right. You're fine, buddy. You're fine. I have a way of doing that to people.
Yeah, thank you.
But I will say with this here, I mean, like you said, you wasn't going to put your name with this, and you have your reasons. Uh, but I will say it's consistent
It
as
is.
far as oakiness and red pepper goes. Uh,
And grass.
Now, as far as any creaminess, now I ain't run across that, and I love a good candela, probably more than most of these guys do. But I think Jesse's on a vegan diet up there or something, man. I ain't got no candela in here. I'd be in love with it
Vegan diet.
if I had
the-
some candela in here. I could be in love with this cigar. I mean,
I think what Jesse, the candela is the grassy.
Yeah,
I think it's the grassy note.
yeah, that grassy note, that candela's got that sweetness to it, though. You can't miss that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice cigar. It's well made. The draw is excellent. But like I said, they're consistent on red pepper and oak. I will give them that. And this one actually had some light cocoa powder aroma on the wrapper, but I ain't found it in the cigar yet.
That's how
I mean, but I mean,
yeah.
it's an enjoyable cigar. Don't get me wrong; it's an enjoyable cigar. I find there's no need to put it out and throw it away.
I would give it a solid B.
Wow.
I would give it a solid
There's that
B.
beautiful ash.
Yeah. I mean,
the ash is just is white. It's solid. It's not even tipping over to one side or the other. Usually
No.
you have to make sure it doesn't fall for one side. This ash is sitting straight up,
They're great
and it's solid. It's white and great
Yeah.
construction. The lines in between are not even very thick in the black. I mean, there's just so much white.
So when you look at the ash,
out of a
that
lot of
is-
cigars I smoke.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
When you look at the
I was just
ash,
gonna say a lot of the cigars I smoke are just not even this great when it comes to the ash.
awesome. Yeah, no, and I'm gonna let those guys know if they're not watching that you guys were impressed with their construction.
Yeah. Yeah, taste profile aside, this is a beautifully constructed cigar that
Yeah.
has burned
It is.
perfectly. I've not had to touch it up at all. I always drop my ash. I do it on purpose when it gets to about an inch anyway. But I just find there are way more sought after cigars that I've smoked that burn like shit, and this is performed perfectly. So I will give it that.
Awesome. I'm glad you guys like it, or at least for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's enjoyable.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, look, if I'm not down there doing the blending, I'm not holding them accountable for, the actual flavor profile is subjective.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what do they need me for, right?
That's man.
right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, sometimes you just need to smoke to, give yourself a break in the day, and it doesn't have to be awesome. It doesn't have to be incredible. It just has to not make you have to touch it up 15 times. You know what I mean? Just kind of zone out and smoke a cigar. That this is a perfect cigar for that.
I will disagree with you there, but if I'm smoking a cigar, I
don't have to put my thought into it. I don't have to try to analyze it and try to figure out.
You definitely
know exactly what it is from the first hit.
Correct. You don't want to be irritated with it at a minimum, right? So it can distract you. So as long as you can get taken away in your thoughts, you can go elsewhere. You may not like the blend particularly, but you're not constantly having to light it back up, and yeah, that would get annoying. That would definitely
Yeah.
get annoying. If
Oh
it's
yeah.
taking me out of my thought process, then I'm annoyed and I drop it and I'm on to the next.
Right.
Um, so I'll say this: do you guys know who Arsenio Ramos is?
I do not.
I don't
I
know.
can't say that I do. No.
Blank looks. I'll say no.
No.
Arsenio Ramos was one of the 8 blenders in Cuba. So there is a consortium of blenders for Cuba, and they blend for every Cuban cigar. And his blend was the Cohiba Siglo. That was his signature blend. But he was also the master blender for Casa Fernandez. And the agronomist, well, the agronomist from Cuba was also the agronomist for Aganorsa. And so he does all of Dion's stuff. Um, gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now. I love his cigars. He's out of Northern California.
Yeah.
Anyway, Arsenio, every time I would create a blend, I would take them to him. We'd sit down, smoke the blends, and he absolutely loved my blends. So he would always ask me for a couple of bundles when I would create cigars. He's now passed on. But if you go through my old Instagram posts, you'll see him in there. He and I, older gentleman, beautiful man, uh, was he forgot more about tobacco than I will ever know, and but he loved my blends. So that's what I strive for. It was him. Who was the? I'm drawing blanks right now. Too much to drink. Oh, with they've all passed on now. Let me see if I can find them.
Okay.
But you can find them on my Instagram.
Right on.
And these guys,
Well, seeing there's all you guys have asked your questions,
yeah, go ahead, guys.
let's get me asking some questions, because you know something. I'm getting bored sitting. I am getting bored sitting. I'll be honest.
Please.
I'm getting bored just sitting. The Cuban cigars, of course. Let's go back into Cuban cigars. Because
Yes, please.
is the cigar loons now. We spoke to, of course, Michelito, and Michelito, of course, originates from Cuba. Also makes his own behikes, of course, behikes or behikes, however you want to pronounce them, and
Vejique.
really, really give us a lot of information. And when he gave us the information, I also had a picture sent to him that was of a lady banding the cigars, and on her table she had 100 cigars, and they all had different bands on, but it was the same cigar. It's been proven that most Cubans are all the same cigar, same size, and it's the same taste. People are getting bored of Cuban cigars because you're going to get cream, you're going to get grass, you're going to get hay, you're going to get coffee. They're boring. This is why now I smoke more New World cigars than Cubans. And I've been smoking cigars 15 years. I've got a regular supply of Cubans that I can smoke. And it's been proven. It's been proven, it's been told. And where do you see that? Do you think it's because they aren't planting different crops? It's just plain tobacco all the time. Do you think there's just because they're rushed in Cuba to get out, of course, to the Asian market? Now, most of Asia have brought some of the cigar factories over in Cuba.
Okay.
What do you reckon it is on that? Why do you think there's most Cubans now are all tasting the same complexity of the cigar?
You think that they are not as complex? Is that what you're saying, guys?
They are basically the same kind of cigar. Nothing changes on the taste. You're not getting a wow factor. They're all
So
tasting the
let me
same.
ask you:
Yeah.
when you eat chocolate, what is the variation?
There is no variation in chocolate. It tastes the same.
It's the
Dark
same.
chocolate, it's going to be darker. Light
So
chocolate's lighter, and white chocolate, it's going to be lighter. That's it.
you
And
go to
chocolate.
chocolate because you want chocolate, correct?
Yeah.
I don't eat chocolate. I stay away from
Exactly.
chocolate.
But you get the point. A ribeye,
Yeah.
it's going to taste like a ribeye, right?
Only
Salt,
if it's rare.
you can change the seasoning around, but it's still a ribeye, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with a Cuban cigar. That tobacco is going to have the same profile. And what is one of the biggest complaints about cigars is consistency. Cuban cigar is going to be consistently a Cuban cigar. You go back to it because it's what you know and love.
So would you agree that what I said basically it's the same cigar, same taste?
I hope so.
No matter
Yes.
what Cuban you smoke. It's the same.
If it isn't the same, you're not smoking a Cuban cigar.
Because we've had this kind of
Okay.
disagreement on this and debate. And I was told I know nothing about cigars, even though I've been smoking them 15 years and smoking Cubans. The
Yeah.
thing is, the information's out there. The information's out there on Cubans. It's there. And when you've seen the English market and you see the figures of sales, Cuban on sales is taking a big drop. You're seeing now Honduras really up there with what they're bringing out with cigars. You've seen Dominican Republic of where they are. You've seen, of course, Nicaragua with where they are. And this is the thing. I enjoy New World cigars more than what I enjoy, of course, Cubans. Don't get me wrong. One of my favorites has always been the Bolivar Fine Belisco Cabinet Selection. And I absolutely love that cigar.
Yeah.
But would I buy it now? No, I wouldn't. Because to me, it's the same. It's the same. I can go and get a Partagas D. It tastes the same. I can go and get a Cohiba. It tastes the same. Partagas, Romeo and Juliet. But when
You
I
know what?
pick up a different New World cigar, they
Uh-huh.
taste different. I'm getting different notes. I'm getting oak. I'm getting a slight bit of red pepper. I'm getting black pepper, white pepper. I'm getting nuts, walnuts. I'm getting honey, caramel, mint. That's what I like about exploring cigars. I don't want a cigar that's going to be, okay, I've smoked another cigar, it tastes the same. Wow, okay. Because if that was the case, I wouldn't be smoking cigars.
Okay, so I'll nothing wrong with that, right? So people will eat a deep fried turkey, right?
Sure.
They'll season the hell out of it 12 different ways, deep fry it, do this, do that. But if you want to go back to a traditional turkey, you go back to what? Baste it in butter, salt, pepper, maybe dill, a couple of different variations there, but it goes in the oven. You cook it to a specific temperature. It comes out, and you're like, that's turkey.
Mm-hmm.
So there is your bellwether. There is the mark. Here's what we're starting with. It's like if any of you have worked construction, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll tell you measure and cut the first 2x4 for a wall, correct? And
Yep.
any
Yep.
decent foreman is going to tell you, no, you need to measure each one, because if you measure the first one wrong and then cut all your 2x4s according to that first one, what happens? They're all wrong. The whole wall's
It's gonna
wrong.
get messed up.
You've wasted exactly. So you always want to go back to the true measure. And for me, the true measure is a Cuban cigar, period. I love all the different expressions from different areas. I grow in Nicaragua. That's, because I can't do it in Cuba. I won't do it in Cuba, even if they opened it tomorrow. Unless the Cuban government was not communist, I would not work out of Cuba, period, because of what they did to our family. So
Sure.
just, I won't do it. That being said, Cuban tobacco, it's unmatched. It, you have Pennsylvania broadleaf, you have Kentucky broadleaf, you have Connecticut, you have all the different areas where specific leaves, specific varietals are grown. And they're great in their own way, but they're just not Cuban tobacco. You have Indonesian, you have, uh, on and on.
Sure.
They're just not the same expression of the plant as the terroir in Cuba, period. So you're never going to match that, what you're growing in Cuba. So everything that you're talking about, guys, 100% agree. I love all the different variations. I love all the new stuff and everything else. But when you want to go back to what you know, right? Like you can go try all these different restaurants, all these different, fusion this and fusion that and everything else. But when you want to go just get a good steak, you're going to go to Morton's.
Sure.
You're going to Morton's and you're going to get a good steak. Why? Because they do it salt, pepper, butter, garlic, maybe. Done. Cook it to the specific temperature, and it's always going to come out well each time.
Yeah.
Right on.
So I know, of course, in 2014,
Mm-hmm.
Half-Wheel did a post on you about one of the cigars that you did. And I
Who did?
believe that you had a Half-Wheel. Half-Wheel did a
Yeah.
post on you in 2014, and it's about one of the cigars that you brought out. And of course, you had a Corojo and a Carilla hybrid Habano. How did that all come around to get a hybrid together? Because I've never
The
heard of that hybrid put together. I haven't.
Yeah, Corojo and Criollo. So
Yep.
they're just two different varietals. They created a Habano hybrid, which is beautiful. It's still They still use it today. Um, but like I said, Altadis in general really changed things in the industry. If I'm going to be politically correct, if I'm not going to be politically correct, they fucked everything up. And but it's still in production today. The problem is I think, guys, I don't know if it's a problem, but I think it just became a workhorse. You can argue, did they create it as a hybrid in order to stave off different pests or what have you, or just, it grows easier in certain terrain? Could be. Um, but it's a beautiful expression of the leaf, and it worked well with that blend. Worked very well. And you had Oscuro and you had Habano.
Yeah.
Both of them Habano,
Cool.
but you had Oscuro and Natural.
Yep. That's nice. And of course, we have gone on about different primings, of course, of the different leaves, and this is the thing. There's, of course, especially with Placencia, and with Fuente, that they bring out. That's, of course, different primings, and the leaf, of course, it's the same binder, same filler, but the
Yeah.
difference, of course, of the wrapper is because of the priming, and we've gone into this quite a
Yeah.
bit. What did you think of course, the reviews that you had from Cigars and Scripture and Cigar Dojo in 2013? What did you reckon of them reviews on, of course, your cigars that you had out around that time? Trust me,
Uh,
I've been doing a deep dive on you. I've done a deep
yeah.
dive all day on you.
No, that is deep. That's a very deep dive. Those guys are great over at Cigar Dojo. They're still doing their thing. They started making cigars themselves with Eric Espinoza, I believe, and I think they're doing some stuff with other people. But I know they were doing stuff with Eric Espinoza,
Yep.
and I love his stuff. He's great. Um,
Yeah, there it goes.
yeah, but they loved my original blend, um, as did Cigars and Scriptures, as did a few other places. Like I said, uh, Arsenio
Yeah,
Ramos loved them. My biggest challenge at that time was being able to produce enough cigars to keep up with the demand. That's always been my challenge is keeping up with demand. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I was very appreciative of those guys at that time. Was still to this day, they're friends. Um, but yeah, they were very good to me at that time, and they enjoyed the cigars, and I was very appreciative of everything that they did to help me at
yeah.
that time.
Well, I know, of course, on the website and the read up of it, it says, of course, German cigars and swish, watches, and fine whiskey.
Oh
So,
yeah.
of course, what whiskey do you enjoy? And of course, what German cigars do you like?
What was the second one?
German
What
Whiskey.
German
car.
cars do you like as well?
So BMW is probably. I had a my last BMW was a BMW 535i Sport inline six with paddle shifters, turbo.
Nice.
Nice.
Beautiful car. Yeah, beautiful car. Whiskey. Balvenie 14-year Caribbean.
Nice. Yeah.
You like that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good whiskey.
Um, and probably, yeah, I'd say those two in terms of
Yeah.
German and whiskeys
Sure.
and cars and
So
whiskey.
how did you find, of course, the move from working around the film industry with what you were doing, of course, to then moving into cigars? How did you find that? Because I know, of course, you're involved with your business partner and everything. I've read about that. I know, of course, you had a pizzeria and then you
Yeah.
sold the pizzeria. Like I say, I've
Yep.
done a really deep dive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, I know you worked for quite a bit in the film industry. And how, of course, did you find moving away from the film industry to then going into the whole realm of cigars? Because it's a daunting process when you think in cigars,
Yeah.
because you've just come from films to
Hmm.
now I want to go into this direction. And trust me, it was daunting when I decided to start a cigar company many years ago, and I shut it
Uh-huh.
because I had a heart attack. And it was daunting from going from hospitality, owning pubs, being a bouncer, working on some of the biggest strip clubs in England and on some of the biggest pubs in England, to then going into the whole realm of cigars. But I went into it because of being passionate about cigars,
Yeah.
knowing about cigars, and having friends that I got, of course, tobacconists. And I was friends with them, and they helped me and got the information that I needed to where I was. But of course, how did you find it going from, like I say, the film industry to then going into cigars? How did you find that move?
The move was, looking back at it now, geez, 10 years, 15 years later, 15 years. Wow. Yeah. 15 years later. Hold on. Sorry, guys. 1 second. I
It's
got to
okay.
plug in the computer. Um, so the move into from film into that was kind of was like it wasn't traumatic because I had a pretty good cushion. I took a buyout on my contract with Sony, so I had a few $100,000 to play with at the time, and didn't realize that I needed to adjust my lifestyle. Um, so it was like I had to quickly learn that. So anybody who's an entrepreneur knows that you're sitting there dealing with. I have so much money, so much runway. I've got to take off at some point.
Yep.
And so, what's the old saying? How do you make $1 million in the cigar business? You start with $1 million.
Yep.
Mhm.
You start with
Right.
two
There you
million.
go.
So that was it, and then learning to adjust my lifestyle to that. So yeah, I mean, there was definitely uh, there was definitely a major adjustment. And forgive me, I'm rambling because I'm trying to remember everything because I've been through a lot in that time.
Yeah.
But you adapt, you survive, and if it's something you love, you're gonna figure it out. And if
Yeah.
it's not, you're gonna drop out of it and you're gonna go do something else.
Sure.
And I've stuck with it. I disappeared. I was pretty big on the scene for a long time early on when the boutiques were taking off. And I would say that ours was one that people really loved. If I was going to compare myself to anybody, and I'm not comparing myself to his success because he's done amazingly well, and that's Pete Johnson with Tatuaje. But it was a model of his, which was interesting because when all of that went down, he came into the boutique industry in I think 2007, and so it was very interesting that the FDA cutoff for all of the regulation was 2007. So he fell under it, and the rest of us were exposed to it. So we got hammered by it, and everybody pre 2007 wasn't affected at all by it.
Yep.
But it really hurt the boutique industry. The cigar business was $13 billion a year business at that time, and the boutiques made up about 4 billion of that. So we were putting a pretty big dent in the industry, and so they were looking to swallow up all the boutiques one by one and kind of consolidate and basically formalize the rest of the industry. So yeah, it was a crazy transition from film to cigars.
Yeah.
It was,
Okay.
What?
you know, making
Well, what do you
very.
reckon? Yeah.
Go
What do
ahead.
you reckon now? Of course, with all the different rules that are coming out with the FDA, and of course, there's the
Oh,
premium cigar industry did get a win, and then of course this person went in. She's trying to
yeah,
overturn the decision, and it didn't get overturned. What's your thought on that? And I thought, for one, yes, it's a win. Yes, they've turned around and told her to go and fucking get on a bike and do one, basically, because she's trying to argue the toss, and they're going, well, show us more information. She couldn't. So in my eyes, it was kind of a win, but we're going to keep seeing this where the FDA are going to keep trying to fight it and fight it and fight it. And in the end, I think it's a lot of money that the companies are putting in to try and fight it. I don't think the FDA are ever going to stop, to be honest. And it's the same here in England. Different charities here that fight against cigars and tobacco,
mhm.
because they've got the money, they're going to keep fighting and fighting and fighting. And soon, companies run out of money. These major companies, and like the FDA, they ain't going to run out of money because they're always going to keep finding ways again it. So, did you reckon that it was a win for the premium cigars, or do you reckon it's just 1 point that we've scored and let's see what the next bombshell's being dropped. What do you reckon?
I had these arguments, geez, uh, 6, 7, well, gosh, 7, 8 years ago with the industry as a whole. And
What's up, Risky Tube?
I remember telling guys in the cigar business who their big problem was being compared to cigarettes. And so they had always carved out this exception for cigars because, well, we're not cigarettes. And my argument with them was you keep throwing cigarettes under the bus. And how long do you think it's going to be before they start making the argument, well, cigarettes are tobacco just like cigars are tobacco? They're the same thing. I was right. And I think Glenn Loop was the lobbyist for the cigar business. And we just kept seeing loss after loss after loss after loss after loss. And I got to the point where I was so disenchanted with the whole group. I'm like, you guys are just interested with protecting what you have instead of fighting for the principle, um,
Yeah.
which was, you know, liberty. It's like you can't tell me if I can't smoke. So here's some irony for you guys, and you may or may not know this, but the same time that they passed this sweeping legislation on cigars and vapes, okay, they dumped cigars in with vapes. I said, "How's that, you idiots?" They not only regulated you, and they already screwed cigarettes. Now they dumped you in with vapes, which are not even the same thing. And so the same day that they passed that sweeping legislation across cigars and vapes, they released a study that showed not, and this is the same FDA. So the FDA releases the study at the same time they're releasing their sweeping regulation on cigars, and their regulation was all based on your health and protecting you from yourself. They're releasing a study that was buried that said up to 2 cigars a day was absolutely insignificant with regards to your health. So
Yep.
they're basing all of their regulation that they're passing and taxes and the usual garbage that they do, big government does, based on
Yep.
health.
Mm-hmm.
They're releasing a study. I mean, the irony was staggering. And I'm one person, but I'm sending this to Glenn Loop, who was the cigar lobbyist at the time, and I'm going, did you not see this? Did you not see that the FDA, the same FDA that is passing this legislation, is also telling you that up to 2 cigars a day is absolutely negligible on your health? And I got nothing in response, and I was like, "That's it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to clearly do this on my own and go my own direction because these guys are all in on stupid, and you know,
It's a hard battle when you look at
oh yeah,
what the FDA are bringing out, and of course
right.
what other companies are trying to fight against the FDA. We know,
The,
especially the cigar loons, we know, of course, of thoracic season. And
yeah,
he's friends, of course, with Aganorsa, he's friends with Amendola and Protocol.
yeah,
And he said, on medical research and operations that he's done, none of
hmm,
his operations were on cigar smokers, they were on cigarette smokers. Now, here in the UK, we're going through the same loophole of trying to
hmm,
fight vapes over here because, of course, we've got a regulation on vapes. There's
yeah,
got to be a certain milligram in it. What's happened? The 1,000 puff vapes, the 10,000 puff vapes, coming through the black market and they're getting sold. So they're trying to get rid of it. But I've always said from day one, why should cigars be classed in the same category as hookah pipes, as vapes, as cigarettes? Because this is a natural product where cigarettes, we know chemicals are pumped into it. It's mismatch with the tobacco because it's paper. It's paper that is dyed with tobacco juice. It's shredded up into tobacco with a very small mix of tobacco in the cigarette with chemicals. And as we know, you put a cigarette down, that cigarette's just going to carry on burning. Because the chemicals, you put a cigar down, leave it, it's going to go out. Natural. And I've said this for years. Now, what's happened here? Of course, they've put the year up. So every year, it's supposed to be 18 at the moment, but as of next year, it's going to be 19 to buy anything. It's stopping 14-year-olds from buying anything, of course, to become the national age to buy. And we're going to have this
21 here
in 2030. They're on about there's all smoking products here in the UK are going to be gone. But when you look at saying they're going to be gone, cigars, tobacco industry anyway here in the UK is our biggest tax earner, as well as alcohol. Even in the States, if you look, it's the biggest tax earner because everybody either smokes. It's a big tax earner.
Yeah, here's the good news for you guys. They'll just legalize weed. They'll legalize marijuana. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They shifted all the tobacco tax.
It's true.
So, and it's no secret. If you go back, and I mean, all of this stems from the Philip Morris settlement back in, what was it, 76, 75, 74? It didn't take Nostradamus to figure out that the amount of taxation that they put on these, so it was never about your health. It was all about revenue. And they taxed the hell out of it. And so people continued to pay the taxes. They continued to pay, they had to take a portion of that money and spend it on ad council ads that told you how bad smoking was, and it was responsible from everything from your toe fungus to your curly hair, you know. And so people eventually stopped smoking. And so it was, they stopped smoking. So what happened? All these state budgets that were built on tobacco tax and all of these giveaways that these tyrants were using in order to get reelected went away. So what did they do? They went after marijuana. And I told all the potheads at the time, you dumbasses, they're doing to you what they did to tobacco, and you monkeys are jumping up and down screaming to legalize it. And you're going to pay taxes on your weed that you were getting from Joe Blow on the corner for half the money. Now you're going to be giving half of that money to the government. And here we are. I was correct. The only difference being is that now, you go to a weed store and buy weed. You also go on to a federal ban list where you can't buy a gun. So they got a win-win, the government. You're seen as, it's just the amount of stupid is just staggering.
Wow.
Let's just say that's probably law.
What was that?
I said, let's just say
We didn't hear you, Jesse.
Oh, there's Jesse. Okay. Yeah. Lean into your mic. I can't hear you.
I said that's probably a California law.
Yeah, well, Washington too, brother. It's
I don't know.
it's pretty. Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, you look around the
So,
landscape and it gets kind of depressing because things that are pretty obvious are becoming more and more controversial, if you will. And when I say controversial,
yeah,
I say that,
Mm.
tongue in cheek. It's not controversial. Common sense has become controversial.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a load of that, and I think the biggest one at the moment that's scaring a lot of boutique and premium cigar
Mm-hmm.
makers is the fact of this track and trace that they're bringing in England, and
Oh,
it's got to have a passport, track and trace. It's a
Mhm.
passport basically, and it'll be, of course, from manufacturer. It'll go, of course, to distribution. Then
mm-hmm.
it'll come into, say, England, and then it'll have a stamp from customs. Then, it, of course, the seller to the shop. Then that's it. That's the passport. But what it is, it's to show it's gone through the right channels and not the black market way of coming in. But the whole system to do it
Mhm.
is in the hundreds to get the system. Most people aren't going to put that in. And I think what we're going to see here in England is maybe the disappearance of some of the boutique cigar companies that I've just got.
Yeah, 100%.
I, re-
100%.
I reckon there's once it's been passed here in America see it, it might then come into America. Do you
Oh,
reckon that would come? Because we
yes.
know now they're putting different markers on the boxes and different things that were seen that should have been done years ago. They're finally doing it now. Do you reckon there's that system will come like it's coming to
Yes.
England?
Yeah. 100%. If Trump does not get elected in this uh in
Yeah,
coming in November,
really.
uh you're
And
looking at a dark world. And
yep,
I don't say that. I don't care what your opinion of Trump is, irrelevant. Um, but if Kamala Harris gets elected, you're looking at utter darkness. The globalists win. I don't see another fair elect. This is not going to be a fair election by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't see they will institutionalize. Gavin Newsom, the governor here in California, just signed into law banning, okay, banning any local municipalities asking for identification for voter ID or in order to vote, asking for identification.
yeah.
Why would you do that?
Oh, I don't know. How many million reasons do you need?
There's only one. You
Mhm.
and I both know it. Um, that there's no logical explanation. They'll make up some bullshit about racism and xenophobia and so on and so forth. But if we keep accepting this from these people,
Hmm.
we're going to get what we deserve. So, to your answer, guys, to answer your question, yeah, this is the plan. These people,
Yeah,
it's they're they've had one objective, and that's to globalize everything and for them to control it. Uh, and tobacco is just another product that they will control uh, to keep it on course. But
Yeah.
yeah, in terms of it's I fear for our kids, man. I fear for our
yeah,
countries. And you guys are dealing with it from the Middle East across the pond, and we're dealing with it from every nation. Uh,
yeah,
from here in the United States, 20 million people that we have no idea who they are, where they're from,
Yeah.
except for the
yeah.
430 something thousand criminals that they allowed in. It's
Hmm.
it's staggering. So yeah, of course, You guys are the crash test dummies, if you will, without, I don't mean that
Oh yeah, we are. No,
insultingly.
we are. England is a crash dummy society where we pass it, and then everyone else looks at it, and if it works, they will bring it in. And this has been the biggest thing with the UK for a long time. And I don't agree with the system over here. Don't get me wrong. I've spoken
Oh
to
no,
the
I got
guys
that.
about it. I have. But
Yeah,
anyway, I'm going to pass it back to
Hey,
Jess. I am. So
hey,
Jess, I'm going
just
to.
before we do
Yep,
that,
go on, kid.
Gaz, I got one question, Scott, and
Yeah.
we've talked about this. We've asked ourselves in a recent episode, I think, when it was just all of us, just BS, and on one episode. And I'm curious to see your opinion with your rich heritage in Cuba and your affinity for Cuban cigars. Do you ever see in our lifetime? Do you ever see that changing and Cuban cigars coming back onto our market? I mean, can you ever envision that in our lifetime?
I
That's a good
would have
question.
said yes when Trump got elected. Well, right at the end of Obama's administration, ironically, um, I thought we were very close to toppling the Cuban government, the communists, um, and then lo and behold, somebody came in to save them, which was the Chinese comms, and now I would say no. I don't see it
Yeah,
in our lifetime. No, and they would
yeah. I
have to
think
modernize the farming in Cuba, and I just don't see them having the capability of keeping up with the market for Cuban cigars unless they switch the business model to a boutique batch, small batch exclusivity model where basically only the extremely wealthy are going to get Cuban cigars,
Yeah, I think
which
we had
is
talked about too. Like maybe the only possibility was if Monte Cristo or Cohiba, were able to release some, but and I think that was our pretty much consensus that we won't see that. So I was just curious what you thought. So I appreciate it.
yeah, which is sad. I mean, yeah, and Monte Cristo #4 is another one of my favorites. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, go to Best Cuban Cigar website, and you can get a complete rundown on every make, uh, every vitola, everything. I mean, it's a entire education on Cuban cigars. If you guys ever want to check it out, you guys are cigar files. You'll enjoy that website.
Okay.
Sure.
Like I say, we'll pass it
Jess?
back up to
Right
Jess
on.
because I know we're
Yeah.
coming up to that time where we normally cut
Well,
off. But
mhm.
Jess,
Well, before we go, before we will finish off, there's one question that has to be asked, and it's the ultimate question every time. So, what is that question there, Gas?
5 people, alive or dead, that you would like to sit and smoke a cigar with.
Oh, that's a good one.
They don't have to be cigar smokers. They can be anybody,
Yeah.
live or
I,
dead.
well,
Anybody who's one day ever with.
I've smoked a cigar with one of the five I would have on that list, and that's Jack Nicholson.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Humble
So
brag there.
that was a humble brag for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not a name dropper, but
No,
We
that's
asked
when
for
I
it. We asked for the name. So
did
that's
ask.
right.
Yes. Okay, two, or let's say that was #5. #4 would have been actually I've had a couple of cigars with let's just put it this way. Okay, at the same time, I had a cigar with. We were in the back of a car, and it was Nicholson, Sandler, and I won't say any other names. I should keep it. Okay, so we'll mark those two up the list. The other,
Wow.
of course, would be Ronald Reagan. Of course, he's passed on. Uh, Anybody, right? Anybody?
Yeah,
Yep.
anybody,
Yep, it could
Anyway.
be anybody.
live or dead.
Thomas Jefferson, George Washington,
Yeah,
Martin Luther King,
Hmm.
and John F. Kennedy. Of course, I just don't think Jesus smoked cigars, but maybe he would.
We've had that answer before. Yep,
that's
most
right.
Yeah,
definitely.
we have.
Never know.
Yeah.
Never,
That would be absolutely number one.
Yeah.
There you go, man. That
Yeah.
would be the one.
absolutely, yeah.
That would be
Good,
absolutely
good
number one.
list.
Yeah, and I think
It is a
who
good
knows?
list of what you've come out with.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good
man.
list of what you come out because
Good selection.
normally we hear, of course, Churchill, we hear
Absolutely.
Michael Jordan, Arnie. Of course,
Churchill,
we hear a lot.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, Mike.
there's a lot that come out, and I've picked out some weird ones like Ozzy Osbourne. Because Ozzy Osbourne used to, and Ozzy Osbourne's only, well, Ozzy Osbourne was born in Birmingham. I'm in Stoke-on-Trent, but we're in the West Midlands, where we were born. And Ozzy
right.
Osbourne's only, his house is only like an hour's drive away from where I live. And of course, it'd be nice to smoke a cigar with him and find out how it was growing up in the West Midlands to then making music and about his life. But there's a load that's been brought up, and the cigar looms when we've sat, a lot have been brought up, even when we've had the cigar misfits last week. And we're
Yeah.
asking some of them,
Yep.
their answers were out of this world with what they were telling us. And
My,
we had artists in Del Tobacco, and they turned around and they went, just you guys would like to sit down with you. And he was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's a great
How do
answer.
you
You
answer
just want
that?
to sit with us.
oh yeah,
Brilliant.
and
And that's the thing.
I will second that. I've enjoyed this conversation with you guys.
Good.
So yeah, for
Good.
sure.
We've enjoyed it too. Yeah. But Jess, I'll pass it back to you, like I say.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you so much for taking the time,
My pleasure.
to come out and sit with us and have a cigar and let us pick at your brain and learn more about you and Hermosa Cigars and where it is that you are going with it. And it's been an absolute pleasure
Uh,
having you here.
Likewise, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Likewise.
And
Good question.
Exactly.
You guys have a great podcast, a good collection of characters. Every question was great and unique. It wasn't like somebody was piling on the last guy. So it was good. You guys got a good thing going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it means
you.
a lot.
Appreciate it.
It does.
You, I
All
appreciate
right,
Means a
with
it.
lot
that,
because, yeah, it does mean a lot because, like I say, a lot of hard work goes into it. And I know, Jess, tonight you've been a bit nervous. With it being, of course, your first hosting. But well done, my brother. Well done. And like I
Yeah.
say,
Thank you.
been a great, been a
I,
great show.
I did take my anxiety meds before this, so
There you go.
Yeah.
He is so tough when he did it.
Yeah. There you go. Some more anxiety meds.
Yeah.
ain't even gonna lie about that one. I took a couple before the show.
Of course, please come and join us next week because we've got Crown Head Cigars as our guest. So, of course, we've got
Nice.
Miguel coming from Crown Heads, and going to be a great show. Of course, normal time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific. And, of course, if anyone's up in England, as I always say, midnight in England, come and join this crazy Brit as I sit with my American brothers late at night talking about cigars. Because I ain't got nothing else better to do. But we all enjoy it, and
Guys,
like I say,
we love you, man. We know there's a lot of you patriots over there. We know
oh
it.
yeah, we're big
Yeah.
patriots of cigars, and we absolutely love them. And that's the thing. In supporting companies like yourself and different people, and that's the thing. Go and grab yourself Hermosa Cigars. Go and grab yourself some, smoke it, and enjoy it, and support Scott, because you know something, great guy. And thank you for answering the questions tonight. We went hard with you with the questions, like I say. But of course, come and grab the cigar loons next week, and from us, of course, stay smoky, Kurt.
All right, Scott, I appreciate it, man. It was enjoyed sitting with you, and then until next time, smoke them if you got them.
Yes,
Cheers.
Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. It's been great. And like always, guys, keep them lit.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Matthew.
Definitely thank you for your time. And as I always say, don't start none, won't be none. Grump.
And then we'll go down to Grandad Grumpy.
Appreciate you being here, brother. Welcome back anytime, as far as I'm concerned. And y'all just remember, if Jesus ain't driving your bus, just pull over and let Jesus take the wheel. Catch me next time.
Yeah,
Grumpy
and
preacher.
we'll see you, of course, next week. And don't forget, we're going to play you our nice, catchy tune, Cigar Loons podcast. We hope you enjoy the song, and we'll catch you next week. See you later, everyone.
Cigar Loons Podcast. We are the invaders of the cigar world. Cigar Kurt, the front porch cowboy. It's a ginger grizzly bear with a super palate. Cigar Loons invaders of the cigar world. Grumpy preacher, the conspiracy theory expert. Cigar podcast, come and join us. Vitola and proof expert on all things spirits. Tobacco gene stitch director of special operations. Cigar Loons podcast, we are the invaders of the cigar world. Cigar Kurt, the front porch cowboy. As a ginger grizzly bear with a super palate. Cigar Loons invaders of the cigar world. Grumpy preacher, the conspiracy theory expert. Cigar Loons podcast, come and join us.